Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
Hello everyone, welcome to the program. This is Politics Today, live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimalo in Abuja. Well, the new leadership of the ruling All Progressives Congress APC today got a legal confirmation for their emergence at the National Convention of the party. The chairman of the Election Planning Subcommittee for the National Convention, the Governor of Jigawa State, Abubakar Badaru, presented certificates of return to the APC National Chairman, Senator Abdullah Adamu, and other members of the party's leadership elected at the 26th of March 2022 National Convention. The presentation ceremony held at the APC National Secretariat in Abuja reveals that there were 78 positions contested for in the NEC membership and the zone executives, but from these 78 positions, consensus was achieved in 66 positions, which means that positions that were contested and elections conducted were 12. Meanwhile, the ruling APC is accusing the main opposition party, the PDP, of trying to profit from a national tragedy. The party, in a statement from its new spokesperson, Felix Morka, says, while our nation is in deep mourning over recent terrorist train attack and other acts of violence perpetrated by avowed enemies of our nation, the People's Democratic Party, PDP, has sought to profit from our collective grief and tragedy in its desperate quest to seize power and plunge our country back into ruinous, looting ways. End of quote. The APC frowns at the report which implies that the PDP suggested that the APC-led government is complicit in the heinous train attack in which some of our compatriots lost their lives, several injured, and others unaccounted for. The ruling party says that it is insensitive for the PDP to seek to politicize a terrorist attack that cost short the lives of our dear ones for its own base interests. Let's now check out some of your political roundup stories.
As the Osun State governorship election draws near, political parties are gearing up for the campaigns and mobilization for their governorship candidate. In Obokun, Uriade Federal Constituency, members of the People's Democratic Party say they would ensure the party wins the governorship election by mobilizing votes for its candidate, Ademola Adeleke. The party faithful who gathered at the Ijebu-Ijesha are holding a meeting to fine-tune preparation for the party campaign. Leaders from the constituency also used the opportunity to adopt Senator Francis Fadaunsi and Wole Oke for another term in the Senate and the Federal House of Representatives. Aggrieved factions within the Zamfara All Progressives Congress are agitating against the current party structure, which they argued is unfair and undemocratic. One of the aggrieved leaders of the party, Senator Kabiru Marafa, has claimed that the All Progressives Congress has not been fair and just to his faction, and that of the former governor of Zamfara State, Abdulaziz Yari, in the state. He said this while fielding questions from journalists over the removal of APC billboards and posters from their factional secretariat in Guzo, the Zamfara State capital. Senator Marafa told journalists that the All Progressives Congress has offended the people of Zamfara State, hence removing the party symbols and billboards was the right thing by members and supporters of the former governor of the state.
In anything you do in life, you want the most profound thing you want is justice and fairness. APC has not been just and fair to the people of Zamfara State, I can tell you.
The leaders of Orobo and Warri South local government area of Delta State is protesting over a plot to reduce the number of existing electoral wards in the council area. The Warri South local government area, which consists majorly of Orobo, Ijaw and Ishakiri ethnic nationalities, has 12 electoral wards. But these protesters are alleging that the Ishakiris are plotting to return the Warri South council area to 10 electoral wards, which it was before it was increased to 12 in 2002. They therefore warned against such move, arguing that it can instigate ethnic crisis as they vow to resist the plot within all legitimate means.
INEC should not deviate from the 12 electoral wards structure in Warri South local government area.
The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited will from July the 1st this year become a fully limited liability company whose operations will be fully run in compliance with the provisions of the Companies and Allied Matters Act of 2020. Managing Director of the NNPC Limited, Mr. Mele Kyari, made the revelation at the launch of the Electronic Materials Management Systems, a platform created by the National Petroleum Investment Management Services to ensure an efficient and effective tracking of inventory in the oil and gas sector.
Our company will fully a common company today, will transit fully by the 1st of July.
General Officer Commanding A Division of the Nigerian Army Sokoto, Major General Usaid Basi, says the Nigerian Army will continue to sustain multi-agency cooperation as a measure to combat security challenges in the country. The Army General made this known when he declared open a 3-day operations planning cadre 2022 for officers of the Nigerian Army and representatives from other security agencies in the Northwest Zone. He said the effort was aimed at enhancing their operational capability in line with the special operations in the zone, which comprise Hadarin Daji and Hadinkai, which covers Sokoto, Katsina, Kebbi and Zamfara states.
The lectures for this cover are particularly crafted to provide security personnel within the operating environment in the Northwest region the necessary tools that they will require.
Governor Nasir El-Rufai of Kaduna State has warned leaders of the Fulani community and natives of Kagoro chiefdom in the southern part of the state to find all those responsible for the incessant ethno-religious conflicts in the area and other communities in the southern part of Kaduna State. The governor gave the warning during the visit to Kagoro chiefdom following a recent attack in some communities that led to the death of 37 people. It has been a turbulent week for Governor Nasir El-Rufai, whose state has come under heavy attack by bandits and terrorists in the last couple of days. The attacks occurred in Kaura, Giwa, and the latest being the train attack in Chikun local government area. And the Benue State Governor Samuel Otom has called on Nigerians in the face of bandit attacks across the nation to resort to self-defense, which is passive in law, by arming themselves with legal weapons, beginning from the households to community level, before the nation is run aground by bandits and terrorists who are bent on ruining what is left of Nigeria. Governor Otom made the call during the burial of octogenarian and Second Republic Speaker of the House of Representatives, Honorable Benjamin Chaha, whose community in Ukum and several other local government areas in Benue State have been under attacks for the past 1 week, with records of multiple casualties. The government, while admonishing citizens to support troops with water, food and even fuel to sustain military onslaught against armed bandits, says every household going forward must equip themselves with all legal weapons and resist being killed cheaply by bandits and terrorists.
Well, it appears there is some reprieve for the governor of Ebonyi State, Dave Umahi, and his deputy over the decision of the Federal High Court. The Federal High Court sacked the duo over their defection from the PDP to the APC, where there is another judgment from the High Court in Ebonyi State. But the Court of Appeal sitting in Enugu today has upheld the February 28th decision of the Abakaliki High Court bordering on the defection of Governor Dave Umahi and his deputy Kelechi Igwe from the People's Democratic Party to the All Progressives Congress APC. The sitting, which began at exactly 11 a.m., had the Honorable Justice J.O. Oyewole, flanked by Justice Begore and Baggy, with both counsels and both parties in attendance. In the lead judgment, Honorable Justice Begore pointed out that the removal of elected officials in this case, Governor Dave Umahi and Deputy Kelechi Igwe, lies in the hands of the legislature and must be in line with the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. The judge specifically cited Section 308 of the Constitution and pointed out that no legal action can be taken against a sitting president and vice president, governor, and his deputy. He therefore dismissed the appeal with a 2,000 naira fine against the defendant. It has been a very sensitive matter for the governor and his deputy, but let me allow you to listen to the lawyers after the ruling of the court.
The Constitution of Nigeria has not provided that if a governor defects from the party that sponsored him into office to another party, he thereby loses his office. It is mere rascality that would make anyone think that it represents the position. You cannot go outside the Constitution of Nigeria to begin to read into it what does not exist there. So I'm not surprised that the Court of Appeal is in agreement.
And the APC are contesting the defection, that there's need for the court to order his removal from the office, having defected and abandoned the party for which he won the election. That is the summary of the purpose of the suit at the High Court and the appeal. And today the Court of Appeal had delivered his judgment, and to us, we get a copy of it and study it carefully and meet with our client and know the next step to take.
Well, let me show you what has happened since Gọvanọ Umahi left the PDP for the APC in that time is when we've seen this legal battle appears to have emerged. Take a look at your screen and perhaps you have a sense of what the journey has looked like. In November 2021, Gọvanọ Umahi and his deputy defected to the APC. On February 28th, Ebonyi High Court dismissed suit challenging Gọvanọ Umahi's defection from the PDP to the APC. And on the 8th of March, the Federal High Court in Abuja sacked Gọvanọ Umahi and his deputy and 15 lawmakers over their defection to the APC. Now, today, being the first day of April 2022, the court, appeal court that is, has upheld the decision of the High Court in Ebonyi. That judgment came out as a very sensitive one for the governor, Dave Umahi, who tonight will be hearing and getting his reaction to what has happened in the courtroom today. Governor Dave Umahi joins us from Abakaliki, the capital of Ebonyi State. Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for joining us tonight on the program. Let me begin by asking you, how does this judgment of the appeal court come to you?
Well, Shehu, thank you very much, and to good Nigerians, thank you very much. For me, it is good for democracy. It is good for the Constitution, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, which we also want to uphold when we were sworn in. So it has strengthened our democracy, and I think that it is win-win for Nigerians.
So, I mean, of course, it's a legal tussle, and perhaps, are you anticipating that your opponent in the PDP might go to court to appeal this to the Supreme Court?
Well, I've continuously said that I cannot challenge the judgment of a court. I have respect for judiciary. Judgment of a court is judgment of a court and must be respected. But I can at all times speak to the Constitution I swore to uphold. If I saw that I do not understand the Constitution of Nigeria, then I don't want being a governor. And so I'm not afraid of that. And my confidence has always been in God and in our Constitution. Section 308 is very, very sacrosanct. And I don't think that anybody has the right to go and import what is not in the Constitution and they bring in. If you do that, then the democracy will be, at risk. And for any reason, you do that. And I love what the appeal court judge said, that defection may be moral. But we have to understand why one had to defect. When somebody becomes very unbearing, in a particular, political party, you have to leave it for him.
So we'll get to the meat of what the court said and what the law also says, because they say for every rule there is an exception. That's as far as our laws are concerned, but we'll get to that in a bit. But let me ask you, do you suppose that this legal tussle is more politically motivated against you, other than the fact that it is a legal challenge meant or set out to test our laws?
I don't think that anybody will be testing to know whether your name is Shehu, because the Constitution is very clear, about the immunity that is enjoyed by the governor, the deputy, the president, the vice president. And so, there is no basis for that. And you say that in every rule there is an exception. The Constitution is not a rule. It is a Constitution, and it is binding on every Nigerian to respect and to uphold. So you cannot begin to test, the nakedness of a section of a Constitution that is on this matter. So I don't think that I should call it an accident of judgment.
Let me, and when I say there is an exception, of course, there is a general principle that for every rule, rule means that in most part of our laws also, there are also exceptions to some part of it. For example, Section 308 talks about the immunity that 4 categories of persons enjoy in our laws in Nigeria. The president, the vice president, the governor, and the deputy is sacrosanct. That immunity is sacrosanct from civil and criminal proceedings in court. But there are exceptions to it. If you go for an election, the exception is that as a governor, that election can be tested. Your election is being tested, and as such, you are also entering into a civil proceedings in court over your election. Those are exceptions to that rule of 308. But the question here that I would like to draw your attention and perhaps get your reaction to is that there is a federal high court judgment which sacked yourself and your deputy. What was upheld today was the judgment of the High Court in Ebonyi. But that of the Federal High Court in Abuja has not yet been tested or been appealed. Do you suppose that, what do you think will happen to this subsisting judgment?
Sure, I'm not a lawyer, I'm a governor, but there is what is called in law the judgment in rem. And the judgment in rem of 2 high courts, cogent, court of equal jurisdiction, is that if a matter is entered in a particular court and the same subject matter is also entered in another court, the moment, a judgment is delivered in a particular court on the subject matter, and the subject matter now is, whether the governor should vacate his seat or not on the account of defection. That's the subject matter. And so PDP, they showed interest, by suing. The APC also showed interest. I said, no, if you are removing a governor, I contested, I should be the one to be declared winner. And the SDP also went to Federal High Court in Abakaliki and obtained an injunction against PDP. Didn't even join us and said, look, we contested the election. The law says if you didn't contest the election, you cannot be declared a winner. So you have to, declare our interest. We are interested in this matter. So there are 3 kinds of judgment in this matter. And the subject matter is the seat of the governor, whether it should become vacant or not on the account of defection. And so the matter is very simple at the appeal court. And the appeal court has dealt with the matter, which is the subject, of whether a governor should leave his seat on defection. And the appeal court says no, there is no such rule. And what the Constitution did not mention, is not intended.
So the question here is that the case in the High Court was not actually a case that was being pushed by the PDP. This was a case, I understand, by Senator Sonny Uboji, challenging your defection from the PDP to the APC and whether or not you should not vacate your seat after you have defected. That of the PDP is at the Federal High Court. And you have entered an appeal in that matter. That might be heard also. And what is the biggest fear as far as that case is concerned?
So I've told you that the subject matter is the same and that there are 3 rulings in this case. Uboji is not actually saying that I should vacate my seat. The SDP is not actually saying that I should vacate my seat, but they're saying that PDP cannot benefit, from this, should the law allows me to vacate my seat. And so Uboji is saying, look, I came second in the election and I contested. So if the governor is vacating his seat by any kind of judgment, I should be the one to be declared winner. That's the High Court listing. And the High Court in Ebonyi State says no, you cannot even sue the governor in the first place. The rules that allows you to go to tribunals, they're also enshrined in the Constitution and the Electoral Act. But in this case, where there is no pre-election matter, there's no tribunal matter, and the governor is sitting, and for me, I'm sitting very, very well, and you say that the governor should vacate on account of defection. It's very strange to our Constitution. And so, for me, the subject matter has been dealt with, by the appeal court, and the two courts in Ebonyi State has also dealt with the matter, and those judgment came ahead of the Abuja High Court. And so the Abuja High Court was notified of this judgment in rem, and they still went ahead to give judgment. But I'm not criticizing the judgment. I accepted the judgment in good faith, and also made efforts, through the grace of God, to set it aside, because I know it's not in line with our Constitution. So I'm not afraid of, because it's still the same matter, So it's the same matter, even though we are in appeal court in Abuja. It's up to the appeal court in Abuja to take a decision. We've not abandoned the appeal in Abuja.
Okay, we see what becomes of the appeal. I mean, is a judgment. I mean, when you go in front of a judge, of the court, you appear in front of the court, you expect two things can happen. You either win or you either lose. Do you imagine, or do you envisage the worst case scenario, and how do you hope to handle it should it happen?
Sure, we have 3 levels of jurisdiction, or even more at the lower level. But we have the High Court, we have the Appeal Court, we have the Supreme Court. The essence of our Appeal Court is that there are fewer, and in case there are mistakes, these are people, very, revered people that graduated from the High Court to Appeal Court. So they critically will look at this, and for the Appeal Court and the Supreme Court, they look at the Constitution, because they uphold, the integrity of this country, and the integrity of the country is our Constitution. So there won't be, mistakes of trying to, add to the Constitution or remove from the Constitution. So I believe that the Appeal Court in Enugu is the same thing with the Appeal Court, any part of this country. And they have interpreted it, and it's very simple. They say you can't sue the governor, and that's what Section 308 has said. So I'm not going to jump the ship. I'm in appeal, and I can't be speaking to the appeal in Abuja, but I can speak to the appeal that is concluded in Enugu. And I'm very happy with the appeal, and for me, it's victory for democracy, it's victory for Nigeria.
It's again, there is some kind of politics and some kind of morality and some kind of law in all of these. As an experienced and seasoned politician who left his craft as a professional into these, you carried a lot of ethics and value into politics. Do you imagine that it is fair for any political party to have worked hard to earn, and the case has been decided in the case of decided cases in the issue of Amechi, in the issue of Abegunde, decided cases that the political party owns the mandate and owns the platform. Is it fair and morally justified that a political party prosecute an election, and at the end of the day, the bearer of such platform jumps ship?
I will answer you this question on 2 grounds: the issue of morality, stroke fairness, and the issue of the law. The law is sacrosanct, and there is nothing you can do about it. Whether it is immoral or moral, the law, you have to respect it, because that's the platform upon which all of us must, base our decisions. But on the issue of morality, is it fair for, a governor, to become overbearing, on other governors? In party affairs? Is it fair for a governor to direct, for disciplinary action to be meted against a fellow governor, why the person, has committed over and over such offenses, and because of his overbearing status, nothing was done? Is it fair for a governor to say to a deputy governor, who is your father? Is it fair for a governor to say to a sitting governor, you came here kneeling down to be given umbrella? Is it fair? Is the party one-man show? And so, in my childhood, I competed very well. And in my adulthood, I compete. And so, apart from the injustice, which I enumerated when I was leaving the party, this issue of one man dictating the shows in a particular, political party is not acceptable to me. So you have to balance the issue of immorality.
So, do you also, because the way you spoke at the villa the other time does look to me that you implied that the legal tussle is just on the surface, that your adversary used the court against you. Can you be more clear or give clarity on where you think the hand that is fighting you is emerging from? Who is behind your ordeal, which you perhaps think that all of this legal tussle is is just majorly political?
You should be answering that question, Shell, because you've anchored somebody, in this kind of program, and somebody boasted, and said, why is Umahi asking where his problems are coming from? We are the cause of his problems. We are in charge of his problems. So why are you asking me when I should be the one asking you?
No, because I'm not a party here, and I find it very difficult to descend into the arena, because when you, the political heavyweights, are having these issues, sometimes it's not clear to those of us who are on the sidelines. And that's, when we have the opportunity to speak with you, we want clarity. Your followers and those of your party may want to know, and millions of people watching tonight, if you can speak in clear terms, who exactly is behind your deals?
Sure, let me tell you something. There's something we must know in life. When God, is leading you, and you got to an obstacle, and then through God's own, miraculous hands, He takes you over the obstacle. Do not look backwards. I'm not interested in who is chasing me. I'm interested in God's mercy and His grace.
All right, we're due for break in a few minutes, and I'd like us to go into the issue of your presidential ambition. But before we get into that, can you give us an understanding of the fate of the lawmakers who perhaps shared in some of the injury and the the decision of the court over their defection with you? Because it does look like their fate is also hanging based on your decision to move from the PDP to the APC.
Well, when a matter is in court, you don't speak to it, Shehu. So the matter has been appealed, and it's in appeal court. But from the judgments I've been reading, it is, the presiding officer of the Legislative House that has the power to declare a seat of a member vacant, and not the court. And so, since the matter is, has been appealed, I wouldn't like to speak to it. But from the little, I've read, law reports and, following up, a lot of decided cases, mostly at the Supreme Court and the Appeal Court, we are on the matter, and I'm confident that the same God who gave us victory today will give us victory.
Let me ask you, I was preparing your mind on this question as in relation to your presidential ambition. I assume that you've gotten your nomination form, have you? And what has become of your presidential ambition? Is it still alive?
Sure. Our party just concluded their convention, and the program of the party for elective offices is not yet out.
All right, so tell us about your ambition. You said it that you are interested, and you've thrown your hat in the ring. What strategies are you having ahead of that?
What else do you want to know? I've appeared here severally, and I've told you that what God has used me to do in Ebonyi State, for me is going to be the microcosm of the macrocosm of the expectation of Nigerians in terms of infrastructure and program and security. And of course, engagement, across all the sectors of the economy, the youth, the women, the leaders, the elders. So these are the programs, that I've properly articulated, and I've also highlighted in many of my media outings.
All right, because the reason why I asked that question, because all of these court cases may have caused some distraction, and perhaps sometimes when you have some goals that you set, you might just get distracted and just abandon some of these kind of things, and that's why I'm asking whether or not that is intact. And going by what happened at your national convention, any lesson for your party, considering the recent events in the country, the state of affairs in the country, and perhaps how tough the 2023 presidential race could be?
Sure, let me tell you, I've said that, without a number, that I'm not distracted. God allowed that for me to see, the totality of the country and the affairs of the country. And it's very, very important for me. And I told you many times that I'm David. You can go and read about David in the Bible. David was anointed over 4 times, and he was running, a race of his life, hiding in many caves, escaping assassination and all kinds of stuff, But because God had anointed him king, he still became king. And the wars came upon him when he became king. He still overcame the war. And each time God spoke, he said, for the sake of David, I will spare the nation Israel. So I'm not deterred by the, attempt to distract me. I've been, making wars, all my life from childhood. And so I'm not distracted. And then for the convention, I think that you should be commending the leadership of APC. You should be commending Mr. President. You should be saying that, APC has what is called the self-cleansing velocity, which is a parameter in water, hydro water design. And this is an ability, to correct themselves. It's an ability to resolve issues amicably. And so that is what APC is known for. And the challenges we face in Nigeria was not challenges, orchestrated by this present administration. They've been there. And when you plant a seed, you must expect it to grow. But Mr. President and the government of APC have done quite a lot. But I'm always very worried, that, PDP will be demarketing APC, and APC is not saying much about it. A governor that's done nothing in his state will come out and start talking about poor performance of APC. And that's why I've challenged them. Any of the governors of APC, I'm ready, or PDP, I'm ready to face them in a public debate, because you can't just become more Catholic than Pope. You've not performed, in your own backyard. And you are talking about, the tremendous performance of Mr. President to keep this country together from the rot that he inherited from the misrule of my previous party, PDP.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency Dave Umahi, for your time tonight. We must leave it at that. Thank you so much indeed, and congratulations on the outcome of the appeal court today.
Wish me well, my presidential ambition, Shehu.
I wish you were too. You need all the luck that is available.
I hope you mean it. Thank you, Shehu. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. Thank you. Have a wonderful evening. The People's Democratic Party, PDP, is sure having some tough times deciding where it will zone the presidential candidate ticket of its party ahead of the 2023 presidential election. The party has set up a 37-member zoning committee led by Governor Samuel Otom of Benue State, but a 3-hour meeting of the zoning committee ended inconclusively a few days ago. The committee was set up 2 weeks ago during the party's 95th National Executive Committee NEC meeting held on the 16th of March 2022. But party members and leaders are sharply divided on the very critical matter of zoning. One group in the party is demanding that a ticket be zoned to the south. The other is insisting that the contest should be left open to all contenders. At least 7 aspirants so far that we know have purchased the presidential nomination and expression of interest forms to compete for the PDP presidential ticket. With aspirants drawn from various zones of the country, the PDP is under intense pressure to zone its national offices in a way that does not put the party at risk of division and disintegration. But there are hopes that the zoning arrangement will be concluded and determined next week. Let's get some insight and also tell you that the Saraki, Muhammad and Tambuwal group have now visited the former military head of state, Ibrahim Babangida, and the former head of state has said the issue of national interest should be put ahead of any matter. Take a listen to former head of state Babangida.
I want to assure you that I enjoyed meeting with you because I liked what I heard. What did I hear? Your belief in the unity of this country was most paramount during the course of our discussions. Your belief in having a better Nigeria featured very prominently, and you have made my day that all you talked about is Nigeria, Nigeria, and Nigeria. I want you to keep that one up for the benefit of this country and for the generations yet unborn. What you are doing is good. This is how the country should develop. Consultations, compromises, and so on. This will make a better country, and this is what you are trying to do. You will have our support as long as you stay the course of promoting Nigeria all the time, making it a secure country.
That's the former head of state, Ibrahim Babangida. Now, this issue of zoning, Saraki, Tambuwal, Muhammad are saying they want a consensus, even though the party has not decided on where to zone it to. Let's get some insight now from a former national chairman of the PDP, Chief Okezilieze Unwodo. He joins us virtually from Enugu. Thank you so much, Chief Unwodo, for joining us tonight, and it's glad in his own heart that we can speak with you tonight. Give us a sense of how the party can resolve what has become a tough bone to chew in these preparation for the election.
Thank you, Shehu, for having me. As you know, and I would like to clarify this, the People's Democratic Party in every election year revisits the issue of zoning and rotation of presidential power and other executive positions arising, namely Vice President, Senate President, Speaker, and Chairman of the party. And we have just gone through a national convention where we had a zoning committee that advised us on how to zone the party offices. And they maintained our tradition. All those offices that were held in southern Nigeria will move to northern Nigeria. And the offices that were held by Northerners a convention to elect the party officials. Now again, on the presidential or executive platform, it's a 7-member committee to make sure that every part of the country is being heard. People have been nominated from each of the states of Nigeria, including the FCT. And they are very powerful members of our party, governors, former governors, former ministers, and distinguished senators. So it's a very powerful team that going to examine the issue of rotation and zoning. They will examine the issue of where do we zone to win. They will examine the issue of what is the most superior argument presented by all interest groups and try to find a common ground that will satisfy as many people as possible, and those who don't win the argument not to feel so injured because they're surrendering to superior arguments. when they finish that assignment.
Let's glean tonight from your very deep insight and knowledge and experience of the workings of the PDP and perhaps also the workings of Nigeria's politics. In your own view as an elder statesman, where would you say would be fair to zone for the PDP, that is, to zone the presidential ticket of your party?
I will say without equivocation, for justice, fairness, and equity, that it should be zoned to the southeast. Not just because I come from the southeast, but there are extremely compelling reasons why we should look towards the southeast to pick our presidential candidate. If you give me time, I can elucidate.
Please go ahead.
Now, if you look at the 6 geopolitical zones in our country, each geopolitical zone has produced both civilian presidents and military heads of state. The only zone that has produced a military head of state for only 6 months, that's Agui-Ironsi, is the southeast. Some zones have produced for more than 20 years. For example, the Middle Belt, that produced Babangida for about 8 years, that produced Gowon for over 8 years, and Abdul Salam for 2 years. And if you go to the Northwest, the situation is even more glaring, but military and civilian. The first person was Abubakar Tafawa Balewa, and they have had also military heads of state. But if you come to southern Nigeria, then in the southwest, we have had recently President Obasanjo for 8 years, and is the vice president as is there now, completing 8 years next year. In the south-south, we have had Jonathan for 5 years. The southeast has not had anything. Therefore, on the basis of justice, fairness, equity, all-inclusiveness in our politics, the southeast deserves it. Secondly, the southeast is hurting so much from marginalization, especially following the Civil War. We have not been admitted into the commanding heights of the governance. And having said so, the situation has worsened in the past 7 years, where we are accused that we gave the current president 5% of our votes, and patronage to our zone will be relegated to 5 or 3%. This has created a very serious problem for us in the southeast, where the young people are hurting so much. They're hurting so much, and are demanding once more for a separate state of Biafra.
If I may quickly cut in quickly, apologies, and get your view on this. For those who believe that, look, the party, the PDP, needs to get back to power. That's as far as the argument of some leaders of your party presently. Those who are of the school of the thought that, look, let's throw it open. And they're saying, look, let's get the best person, no matter where the person comes from. Let's first and foremost get the APC out of power. That is the agenda of your party, to win an election, having been beaten in 2015 and 2019. Do you agree with them to say, look, your party needs to first and foremost win an election before talking about zoning?
I agree with that. I agree with that 100%. But having agreed with that, I also advance the argument that best candidate cannot. And let us take exactly what has happened in the past. When PDP zoned the presidency to the south, Obasanjo won. When they zoned the presidency to the south, Jonathan won. When they zoned the presidency to the south, Umahi won. So there's no, the statistics are there. Southern candidates of PDP have always won elections. Now, in recent time, we have also zoned the presidency to the north. Atiku did wonderfully well, and most people believe he actually won the election. But our members there were not able to hold our victory. In a state like Borno State, where there has been civil war for for how long now? The opposition, the party in government today was making 1.9 million votes. And Lagos, that is as populous as Kano State, was breaking in 800 million votes. I don't know how you can tell me that that is right. But we had members.
All right.
That place.
So, I must sincerely thank you, Chief Okwesileze Unwodo, a former PDP National Chairman. Thank you so much indeed for your thoughts tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Chairman. God
Former
bless you.
National Chairman of the PDP there. Thank you so much. It's good to hear your voice tonight. Let me get into the conversation. A member of the PDP and a lawyer, Ilemona Onaja. Thank you so much, Ilemona, for coming tonight.
Thank you very much for having me.
I'm very sure you're one of those of the school of thought that say, let's throw it open. Let me get your reaction from what Chief Unwodo said.
Chief Okwesileze Unwodo is a very respected voice, not just in the political party, but across the country. And it's very difficult to agree with that sort of very calm and very deep and insightful reasoning, which is why I stopped where he stopped. Now, the thing that the party must do is find your best candidate across the country and win an election. The objective of any political party, particularly a political party in the opposition, is twofold. One, win your election, then you can deliver on all the promises and your projections and policies to the Nigerian people. But first, your primary objective is to win the election. To do that, you have to put your best foot forward. I'm somewhat disheartened that we've allowed ourselves get dragged into this zoning conversation, and we're not focusing on what the fundamentals are, that our country is poor, that our country is insecure, that a large percentage of our population is unemployed. We need to go very quickly, bury this matter, and go to the fundamentals where we begin to ask ourselves, who is the candidate who, in line with the party manifesto, has the capacity to make promises to the Nigerian people and deliver on those promises to make their lives better, more secure, and to create jobs for them.
So the question now is, you are of the opinion, and you're of the school of thought that for a moment, the party should hang or hold on with the idea of zoning and look for a best candidate.
Look for your best candidate. We're inheriting a problem that isn't ours, Shane.
So zoning should be jettisoned for now.
No, hold on. You can do both. You can actually do both. How? Get your best foot as your presidential candidate. Then zone the supporting offices. Zone the rest of it. Vice president. So once you determine, for instance, that your president should come from the North Central, right? And I have a particular candidate in mind, but go on. But once you determine, for instance, that your presidential candidate should come from the North Central, for instance, you can say your vice presidential candidate should come from here. Your Senate president should come from here. Your speaker should come from here. Your Secretary General of the Federation should come from here.
But then,
you've zoned. That is zoned. What you're doing at that point is you're combining your two objectives. Let's look at it. And two, putting your best.
Let's look at it in a more pragmatic manner, because it flows from top to bottom. Wherever you zone at the top determines how the others will follow. Naturally, it's a natural flow. But again, people will say, you cannot say you want to just pick anybody from anywhere. You've already decided to zone the national chairmanship seat of your party. And according to the constitution of your party, that is where all zoning stems from. If you zone to the north and the national leadership of the party, it must come from the opposite side. Has your party shot itself in the foot in that direction, in that light?
Sure, remember that when the Ugwani committee completed that task, the committee that was set up by the party to zone offices within the party. Remember that when they completed their tasks, one of the things that they said was, we're not touching zoning. And that if we went ahead if a presidential candidate emerges from the north, for instance, we will rejig the internal workings of our party so that we can take the chairmanship from the north to the south.
Is that what the party agreed?
There was that conversation.
So assuming if there's a presidential, northern presidential candidate, no, we need to make sense of what you've just said. It needs to be validated for the people who are watching tonight. So what you're saying, invariably, should there be a northern presidential candidate from your party, that means Senator Yochahayu will have to go. Is that what you're saying?
Remember, shortly after he took office, he held a series of interviews on a number of television platforms where he himself made that statement. It's not just me. It's not just me. It's not my statement.
So that's the position of your party?
That is what a larger population of the party
news to my ears. That's what I'm asking.
A larger part of our population believes. But Sheung, again, in this program while we've been here, we've spoken about insecurity in Kaduna. We've had that come up. We've spoken about economic failures across the country. We've had that come up. We've spoken about all sorts of things across the country. We've even spoken about law and order and implementation of and the effective functioning of our judiciary. If in a country with an existential crisis such as Nigeria, and this is the position, why are we discussing zoning, where this person comes from, who this God worships, as the standard for determining who should be our presidential candidate, rather than other important issues such as competence, such as character, such as capacity? That's what we should be talking about. As the opposition party, that's what we should be engaging with the Nigerian people about. We should be looking for somebody who the Nigerian people accept across the country, who the Nigerian people believe in, who the Nigerian people can engage with. That's what we should be talking about. We should be talking about the promises of that person. We should be talking about the policies of that person. We should be talking about the character traits of that person, a track record of delivery of that person. That's what our political party.
You're preaching to the converted here when it comes to capacity and quality in terms of leadership recruitment process. You're preaching to the converted. I believe so much in it personally, but I imagine that on you and I, you're vertically more talented than I am right now, and you probably will not wear the same trouser or the same clothes that I will wear. We probably will wear different sizes, and that should determine what kind of what the tailor will work on when he's working on our clothes. Now, if you are saying that we should put aside the issue of zoning, that has always determined, we cannot run away from the fact that politics, in our politics, religion and ethnicity has shaped it for over the years. We cannot run away from the fact that we have almost 300 tribes and tongues in this country. That we cannot run away from. That is who we are. Can we look away from those critical points that have shaped our politics? Sad, but that's the reality, isn't it?
Where's that gotten us, Sheung? That's the question.
But can we run away from it?
That's the question you need to ask.
Can any man run away from his own shadow?
Where has that gotten us as a nation? Listen, as much as we understand the importance of zoning in ensuring inclusion, as much as we understand that, remember, right? We're still a badly divided country. No matter how much we have determined our leadership on the basis of where somebody comes from, what language that person speaks, what God that person worships, we are still a badly divided country. The entire principle of zoning is founded in a foundational injustice. A belief that unless somebody comes from my part of the country or worships the same God as I do, right, or speaks the same language, or developmental projects will not come to my part of the country. The benefits of governance will not come to my part of the country. Maybe we need to look at this whole problem. We've been looking at the whole problem.
Well, your party even started this whole idea of zoning. Now it's becoming an issue for the party. How difficult would that be to decide on Tuesday?
What the country faced in 1999 when PDP came up with the zoning formula, and what the country faces 2 wars in the northeast and the northwest, a militia invading the north central, an agitation for secession in the southeast, another agitation for secession in the southwest, unprecedented crude oil theft in the south. We're facing 33% unemployment. We're facing 52% youth unemployment. We're facing inflation at 15%. This country has never been this badly run. What we face now is fundamentally different from what we faced
All right,
in 19.
we need to go. We are totally out of time. Ilamana Onoja, member of the PDP and a lawyer, thank you so much for coming on tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Well, that's our show for today, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'll see you again 8 p.m. on Sunday. Have a wonderful evening, everyone.